are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Probably should make sure that you guys can actually hear me as we are live from the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com, 985-386-7600, 985-386. Okay, you can't hear me. 7600. Guys, if you're affected by Hurricane Ida, I'm here today looking at everything that Ryan Williams and Ernie Drake are doing, helping out so many people. We had to come to the Drake Williams Law Firm because Spectrum is nothing but a large can of Rudy Poo. Nothing but a large can of Rudy Poo. But it's okay. It's okay. They were gracious. Ryan and Ernie were gracious enough for us to come here. So we are live on location. But a huge show in store for you tonight. The Lincoln Riley to LSU saga hits an ultimate high today. We will talk about what we're hearing. We'll talk about what's going on. What is the truth? What do I think? More about what I think. Now, there's been a lot of talk today about Jimbo Fisher, Billy Napier. We'll get into all of it because we have a lot to unpack there. We will touch on all of it. College football playoff rankings came out. Pretty much they came out today. The College Football Playoff Committee came out tonight and said that, hey, it doesn't matter if you play each other head to head. It doesn't really matter what happens, even if you have the same record. We will touch on that. Memphis Spence joins us. He joins us every other Tuesday. He'll be here around 7:20, 7:25. We'll discuss what's going on in college football. He did call a month ago that the Miami athletic director would more than likely be fired and that Manny Diaz would be out. So let's see what our good friend Spence is hearing around college football. Hashtag Ask Blake. Throw in all of your questions. Hashtag Ask Blake, and we'll get to them. Then at the end of the show, we'll go around the SEC. So let's get to a couple comments before we get started. Chili Vic says, hashtag Ask Blake, legit smoke or play. We'll get into that. That'll be the first thing that we get to. Reed says, so much smoke I can't see. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think that it's smoke. I don't think that it's smoke. Ryan Williams, speaking of the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ryan Williams says, reel in the big whale, talking about the tiger droppings post today about a big whale being harpooned. Oh, tiger droppings, you got to love it. But maybe he's not that wrong. We'll see. And Lincoln Riley on YouTube, L. Riley, I should say, on YouTube, says, I can confirm Hank Smith's story. So we got a lot to get into and a lot to break down. A lot to get into and a lot to break down. So let's do this. Before we get started, everyone do me a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to some Facebook groups. Share to all your social media platforms. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and notification bell. Share to all your social media platforms if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, hit the retweet as well. Don't forget to follow. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, don't forget to subscribe. So let's pay some bills. Let's pay some bills early in this thing, and then we got a lot to get into with Lincoln Riley. None better than our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons at betonline.ag. Guys, with 64 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to servicing your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. 225-664-9992. That's 225-664-9992. Or go see them over at 2500 Florida Boulevard in Denham Springs, Louisiana. And our good friends over at betonline.ag. Guys, with legal mobile betting being passed in the state of Louisiana, there's no better place to use those online bets than BetOnline. Guys, I've been talking about this for over 6 months, and it's finally here. You can use it. We're 14-1-1 in our NFL bets. Daddy's making it rain over here. I mean, I got cash for days. But you know where I get my cash from? BetOnline.ag. Use the mobile device. Use Believe50, the Believe50 tab, and you'll get 50% off your first welcome bonus. It's betonline.ag. Betonline.ag. I can't believe I said Daddy's making it rain. Like, what's wrong with me, bro? I don't really know what's wrong with me sometimes, man. I legitimately don't, but they love it. Jacob Cole, let's get to a couple comments and then we'll get into it. Jacob Cole says, my crystal ball says crystal ball. Hashtag wishing. Hashtag Rudy Crew. Tyler Mann says, who is Hank Smith? Ha, ha, ha. Okay, so if you missed it today, but I got to get to Jay's comment right here. He says, can you smell what Blake is cooking? We do have a rock theme, the rock theme in the show. But if you missed it today, there was a tweet that went out from probably a troll account that said Lincoln Riley's agent, did not even name the agent, was in Baton Rouge today meeting with Scott Woodward, and a deal is imminent at this point, says LSU insider Hank Smith. I'm sorry to burst the bubble for every LSU fan, especially those that like Lincoln Riley. I don't know of a Hank Smith. I don't know of an insider named Hank Smith. Now, is there a guy named Hank Smith that's a big booster that we don't know about or I don't know about? Maybe. But it's a very generic name. I had to dig all day long, call everybody I know, just in case of the small chance that Hank Smith, the LSU insider, was true. Haven't gotten any word on that being the case. Now, here's the truth. Lincoln Riley, let's get into reality here. Today, Lincoln Riley was at his press conference, and the first question out of the gate for Lincoln from the media was about, guess who? LSU. Now, Lincoln never denied the claims that he was going to be coming to Baton Rouge. He said, "God," basically, and to paraphrase, he summed it up with, guys, you know I love Oklahoma. I've answered this question a lot of times before. And we're going to continue I'm going to continue to love Oklahoma. Well, Lincoln Riley never once denied talking with LSU, even though he was asked multiple times. Are you talking with LSU? I love Oklahoma. So it's basically like saying, when you're laying in bed with your woman, you're laying in bed with your man. And they lean over to you and they say, baby, do you love me? And you look over to him and says, well, I don't hate you. I mean, tell me that that's not what he's saying. Baby, do you love me? Well, I don't hate you, baby. It's like major pain in major pain. When he comes back at the end of the movie and she goes, do you love me? And he says, don't push the maybe, baby. Don't push the maybe. Here's the truth. And here's not sourced. Here's an opinion. So for everybody, there's 335 people in here currently live right now. I want to say this. Now I'm going to be serious. This is an opinion. This isn't something I'm getting sourced and confirmed and all this kind of stuff, because I need to make sure that when people clip this video and you put it on Twitter and you say Blake Ruffino's saying X, that I'm not saying it. Here's my opinion, and here's my thought. I think Lincoln Riley is the number one guy on the board for Scott Woodward. Because usually when teams and coaches have a loss, the smoke normally goes away, a.k.a. James Franklin, a.k.a. Mel Tucker. But last week, number 13 now, I believe, and we'll have Memphis Spence on, and he could talk about it, and we're going to talk about the college football playoff. But number 13, Oklahoma, had a loss last week, and we're 2 weeks away from more than likely naming our next head coach, and the smoke even gets hotter. Now, I'm not going to get the sourcing or anything from Tiger droppings or wherever. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to rely on the people that I talk to. I fully believe that Lincoln Riley is going to get LSU's best push. Now, will he leave Oklahoma for LSU? I don't know that. I don't know people that are close to the situation in Oklahoma, but I will tell you that they're extremely worried, extremely worried that LSU is going to come up to Norman, Oklahoma and say, hey, brother, hey, Lincoln, here's 10 to 12 to even we'll go up max to $15 million if you come to LSU. And here's the reasons why you should do that. Number one, we have more talent in the state of Louisiana in one recruiting class than what you will have in Oklahoma in the next 5. Look at these facilities. Look at what 3 coaches have done at LSU in winning national titles. Do you believe that you can do that at Oklahoma? Oh, and by the way, if you tell us no, when you come in the SEC, we're going to kick that ass. We're going to kick that ass. My personal belief is that Lincoln Riley is going to have to tell LSU no before any of this goes away. There's more smoke around this than Jimbo Fisher. I have been very cryptic in what I've been saying in this coaching search for 5-6 weeks now. Telling you guys I'm not really hearing anything. And really and truthfully, even though there is some things to be heard about Lincoln, I don't know how much I trust this process and what Scott Woodward has done before. Now, if you believe, for whatever reason, if you believe that Lincoln Riley at this given moment is not the best candidate for LSU, I don't know what to tell you. Now, some people have said Dave Aranda. I can see where you're getting an argument because the last 3 seasons, he's held Lincoln Riley's offense at bay. He's got LSU ties. He's been here before. He's won a national title. He knows what it takes. He's seen what happens. He's recruited here. He's got roots here. I understand that. But for people going out and saying things like Billy Napier, and everybody in my mentions on Twitter talking about ULL's head coach or UL head coach, what Louisiana's head coach, whatever they want to call themselves, and Billy Napier, if you think that he has a better track record to date than Lincoln Riley, I'm sorry to tell you, you are wrong. Lincoln Riley is 54-9 and has been to the college football playoff 3 times the amount than Billy Napier. Now, Billy's coached in some big games. He's been under Dabo Swinney, got fired at Clemson as the offensive coordinator. He's gone to Alabama. He's been a really good coach at UL. Really good coach, ULL. But here's what he's not. He's not a double overtime 1 play away from getting to the national title. What he's not done is gone up toe-to-toe with Alabama and Tua Tagovailoa and expose them, and then Clemson beats the very next game to be played in college football. Alabama loses to Clemson in a routing, and Dabo Swinney in his post-game press conference says, hey, quite honestly, guys, we took everything that Oklahoma ran in the second half with Kyler Murray and implemented it, and that's how we won. And that was our offensive scheme for the national championship. Dabo said that. If you want to talk about Billy Napier, that's fine. I don't think that he's a bad head coach. But I do think that Lincoln Riley has more skins on the wall to date and is a very innovative offensive mind. Probably, maybe outside of Lane Kiffin, the most or the biggest and the best offensive mind that you can go and get. That does line up with what Scott Woodward has done. Chris Peterson, offensive-minded head coach or offensive-minded coach. Jimbo Fisher, offensive-minded coach. Buzz Williams, offensive-minded coach. Jay Johnson, offensive-minded coach. Kim Mulkey, offensive-minded coach. Why do we think that he's going to go to a defensive coach, and that's not what Billy Napier is, but someone like Aranda that doesn't fit his mold? I'm here to tell you tonight, Lincoln Riley's my number one guy. LSU has won national championships with toss dive Les Miles and incompetent Ed Orgeron. The man that's running out there in press conferences making this program or trying to make this program a joke won a national title. Now, there's going to be some things that you hear and some negative things about Lincoln Riley. I promise you, you're going to start hearing some serious negative stuff about Lincoln Riley. It's going to come from Orgeron and it's going to come from Derek Panansky. I told you here first where it's coming from. All the negative smoke that's out there, all the bullshit that they're trying to feed LSU fans. You're lost, dog. You're done. While you have a girlfriend on the sidelines during the LSU football game after we heard everything in the telecast about LSU's current offensive coordinator, Jake Peets. Don't get me started on that. All right, let's do this. We got about 2 or 3 minutes. I got to scroll down these comments very fast before we get to Memphis Spence. I don't know if I'm going to have to ask Spence because people like Peggy says, you can't call him Memphis Spence. I'm like, he calls himself Memphis. I'll ask Spence anyway. Ryan Thibodeau says, hashtag Ask Blake. And we're smoking like a Ford with burnt rings on a head. Okay. Juice Washington says, hashtag Ask Blake, if we make a bowl game, does Coach O stay to coach the game? If we go to a bowl game, yes, he will. I don't know if we will. And I don't know how much I want Ed Orgeron around this team anymore. Like legitimately, guys, I hope that we could go to a bowl game without Ed Orgeron. You need the 14 extra practices. Somebody asked me today, and I really don't know where this is coming from. Somebody asked me, Blake, do you get 30 extra practices when you go to a bowl game? No, guys, it's like 13 or 14. Where's 30 coming from? Like, what media members, like somebody asked me, said, hey, somebody in the media said you get 30 extra practices. No, you get like 13. So I really don't know. I really don't know where that's coming from. But anyway. Jacob Cole says, but did Hank Smith confirm it? I don't know who Hank Smith is. I really don't. I'm sure we'll find out who you know who Hank Smith is? The country singer. The one that smokes peyote with his horse. This ain't Yellowstone, dog. You can't go smoking peyote with a horse. Tyler Mann says, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's very true. Guys, I think that this is more than the smoke. And I told you, and look, there could be, let me say this too, and let me get this out in the public, before everybody starts ripping on me and shit and all this kind of stuff. There's a chance that Lincoln Riley's not your next head coach. Let's make that understood. But in my opinion, and I'll end this is where I'll end my opinion here of why I think he's the number one. I said this last night, and I posted this morning on Twitter for my clip. And I want to say this again, just so, and it's kind of like we're putting the pieces together and why I don't believe Scott Woodward can keep this one as silent as he did LSU baseball. Jimbo Fisher came out and emphatically told you no. Like emphatically said no, he's not coming. I got ranches over here. I got ranches over there. I call them both Hidden Valley. Some of y'all, that's going to go over your head. Hidden Valley Ranch. Come on, bro. I stole that. I'm going to be honest. I stole that. Stole that from my buddy Jake Crane. I'll give him the credit. But then all of a sudden, Mel Tucker gets an extension or is going to get an extension. And they're going to be paying him close to $6.5 to $7.5 million. Why is every hot name at LSU besides Lincoln Riley saying no and getting an extension besides him? Look, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. And the reason that Jay Johnson was so out of left field, pun intended, the LSU baseball coach, that is because college baseball isn't as followed as much as what football is. It's just not. So you mean to tell me that if a college football head coach made the college football playoff this year, none of us would be talking about him? Now, we're not necessarily talking a lot about Mario Cristobal, but we're still talking about him. It wouldn't be out of left field. All right. I missed a lot of these comments, but it's okay. We had to talk about it. Pooh Bear said, that AYS hat, nice, big dog. Y'all like that? I pulled my license plate off my car and stapled that son of a bitch. Y'all like that? All right. Let's do this. Let's pay some bills very quickly. We got to get to Memphis, Spence. Damn, we got a big old show up in here tonight. Y'all want to know who the next head coach is. I know y'all Rudy Poos like the back of my hand. Rudy Crew. All right. Let's pay some bills, and then we're going to get to Memphis, Spence. None better. And we're here live on location. Because Spectrum, just like the College Football Playoff Committee, is shit. So, you know what? That's why we're here. None better than good friends at the Drake Williams Law Firm. Guys, get over to the Drake Williams Law Firm today. If you're affected by Hurricane Ida, all you need to do is call and set up a meeting. Consultations are free. 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600. Or go to the DrakeWilliamsLawFirm.com. Guys, this is DrakeWilliamsLawFirm.com. Tell me good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. All right. Our man is here. The man, the myth, the legend. I got to say this before we get started.
Go ahead.
I don't know how to put this. I really don't know how to put this other than this. The College Football Playoff Committee is probably the worst committee ever. Like they said tonight, and if people that missed it, the College Football Playoff Committee came out tonight and said, head-to-head games don't matter. Memphis, I'm going to give you the floor. Make some sense out of this for me, brother. What's going on?
I can't explain that. I mean, because head-to-head games do matter. I mean, yeah. What are we playing the games for? But for us to see, actually, can you beat this team? Or do head-to-head games only matter for certain teams? That's the question. Because as we saw last week and as we saw this week, I mean, you can make the argument. You can't use both arguments at the same time. You can't say, oh, Oregon's the better team because they beat Ohio State, yet we just watched Michigan State, just a couple of weeks ago, beat Michigan, and well, Michigan's the better team. You can't use both arguments at the same time because we know, or we should all know, that Ohio State is the better team. Oregon's not. Oregon, if you want to say Michigan State got lucky and beat Michigan, I'll buy that. If you can also admit that Ohio State is the better team than Oregon. Oregon's not. Oregon can hang. Oh, you know what? It would be a good game. Oregon versus Cincinnati. I think they're on the same level.
I agree.
I look at this Ohio State team. I'm like, man, they would blow the doors off of this Oregon team, and that's with Thibodeau back. I don't see them being an actual factor coming down the stretch. So I don't know why games don't matter anymore. But as I was reading on my show the other day, the language that they use in order to pick things is so wide. It's so wide open. I spent a whole lot of time in law. I'm a paralegal. And the way they wrote it, I was like, oh, okay. So there's not really any type of distinguishing language in which you have to choose. You can use any type of outside information that you want and justify it. And that they're open to do that. So there's nothing holding their feet to the fire as to who they put in these places at all. What they're doing is they're just voting 3 at a time. Or they put 6 together. The top 3 go in the first 3 places. They put the next 6 together. The next 3 go into the next 3 places. That's basically all they're doing. There's nothing scientific. There's no logic that goes into these picks. It's just, 13 people getting together and saying, who do you like?
Well,
And
Gerst put, or I don't know how you say this name, but is Georgia versus Alabama head to head not going to matter now? Like, I don't understand.
You know something?
What? Go ahead.
I don't know. I think that they want Alabama in this, and I would not be surprised. I said this the other day. I would not be surprised if Cincinnati doesn't get in this. If Alabama wins out, beats Auburn, finishes the regular season, goes to the SEC championship game, and loses by 3 points or 7 points to Georgia, I think they'll be in there like, well, we think that they're the better team. They're better than Cincinnati. So the first time a 2-loss team gets in would be Alabama. I think they do it. I think they do it. And I don't know why. I think they do it. This particular voting board, the 7 new members that are part of this 13-member board this year, they're just coming. They can say, oh, we're new. We're doing something different, right? And you got 7 new members there. So they can justify this however they want. It doesn't have to make sense to us. It doesn't have to be, again, they don't have to use logic to make these picks at all. They can just use their eye test.
So Memphis, let me ask you this. And I'm going to throw this in there because I'm not sure how much you caught my opening statement. And I know that I saw that you were in here when I was like halfway through. So I don't know. I know that you probably heard that we were talking about Lincoln.
Ah, yes.
And I want to throw this.
Coach.
Well, and I hope he is. I mean, I think right now he's my number one. But look, I'm not gonna. If it's not him, I'd still be okay. But my question is if head-to-heads don't matter, now what the frick happens with Oklahoma if they win out? And so now this has a whole different tie for the people locally and LSU fans because, like, look, Oklahoma, with all due respect to Lincoln, this year they're not a playoff team in my personal opinion. I just don't see where they're a playoff team. But my question is let's say that they do win the rest of their games and they win the next 3 games, and that would be a conference championship game. I mean, I just don't understand how they're going to flip-flop all of this, and what makes me believe that Oklahoma's better than Cincinnati right now. Like, I just don't know. And what do you think about, like, do you think that Oklahoma, are they too far out to get in? But the question here, though, Memphis, and in all honesty, is how do we really know?
I mean, well, at this point in time, I think they said that, what did we say, 11? It's either 9 or 11. If you're below 9 or 11, you historically, which doesn't mean anything to this squad of this board, but historically, you're not going to be able to get in. But Michigan State, maybe, I don't know, Oklahoma State may be on that borderline. They may still be able to get in. Bedlam may be the coin toss here. I don't know. And could Oklahoma still get in? This committee hasn't liked Oklahoma. They started them off at 8. I haven't liked Oklahoma. You don't like Oklahoma. There's something that we see that undefeated record that they had. I knew they were going to get that Baylor was going to tear them up. And they're not clicking on all cylinders like you would see an Oklahoma team do this late in the season. Part of that reason, I think they may be unfocused. Well, why would they be unfocused late in the season? Well, maybe Lincoln Riley's unfocused. Well, why would Lincoln Riley be unfocused? Well, maybe he's going to LSU. And when you start doing the process of elimination, I've been doing this for 10 years now. When you start doing the process of elimination, who else are you going to get? If Jimbo Fisher, you can count on one hand how many guys out there have won a national championship or been invited to the college football playoff and are worthy of taking that LSU spot. Because LSU, you can't. I heard you saying Napier is a great coach. He is. He's a fantastic coach. Is he ready to take LSU spot?
Yeah, I don't.
I couldn't see it. I wouldn't. If I was Scott Woodward, I would be like, no, he doesn't. He's been coaching a long time. Is he deserving? Yeah, but he just doesn't we're trying to get LSU back into the college football playoff. We need somebody who has at least had the experience of getting into the college football playoff. Lincoln Riley fits the bill. Jimbo Fisher fits the bill. Napier, I love him. Great coach. I think he'd be a great coach to maybe coach Cincinnati next or something. I mean, he could take another bigger job and get out there and maybe, but jumping from Louisiana Monroe. Is he at Louisiana Monroe?
ULL. Yeah.
ULL.
Yeah.
Lafayette and jumping into LSU. I think that's too big of a stretch. Mm-hmm. It's been too big of a stretch for a couple of people have been asking me about Fuente all day long, getting fired over there at Virginia Tech. I'm like, guys, Virginia Tech, you're following an actual legend there. You have to remember, you're not going to get you're bringing Fuente out of Memphis that just turned around a middling program, and he's following a legend. Was he supposed to work out, or was he supposed to just be the interim? I don't know. There's some people that said, hey, he's supposed to be, the guy, and we gave him enough time. And true, they gave him enough time, but when you're following a legend, it's hard to actually fit in those shoes. You need somebody who actually has experience, and that's not what Fuente had. If they wanted somebody to follow a legend, they would have had to get a name. They would have had to get somebody who had been, at least played for a conference championship or won a conference championship at that point. And maybe they would have had the right guy. But I thought Fuente was a placeholder from the beginning. And I told everybody that.
Strike up the strippers and strike up the flip phones. Hugh Freeze is going to Virginia Tech. You heard it here first.
Probably. I mean, that's the perfect place for him, right? He's an offensive guy. He needs another shot. I think that's probably a play that's a great landing spot for Hugh Freeze.
I think so too.
He'd get in there. He'd start winning again. He'd get that offense clicking, and that's what offense is starting to win. There are very few guys that can win with There are a few defensive juggernauts out there, but there are very few guys that are winning with that defense. Even Mel's having a hard time at Michigan State running the ball and playing defense, although he's ranked. But he's still not getting any love. He's still not getting the love that Michigan's getting even. So I think you see the ebb and flow every year.
Which is a shame, by the way.
True. But, you see the ebb and flow every year. So sometimes defensive guys, everybody's in love with defensive guys. Oh, this defensive guy, that defensive guy, that's what we need. Then you'll see it shift back to offense. Oh, this offensive guy, we need this offensive guy. And it'll kind of be, you'll see out of the 15 jobs open, you'll see 11 defensive guys get them 1 year. And then the next year, it'll be 11 offensive guys. It's kind of just a back and forth of hiring for these ADs. But Scott, if it's not Lincoln Riley, I don't know who would be at this point.
It's Lincoln Riley a can't miss. In your opinion, can you envision Lincoln Riley coming to LSU and not succeeding? Because when I look at it, I look at Lincoln Riley and I say, I can't envision today that he would not have success with LSU because 95% of his roster, and we have some recruiting questions in here and we'll get into this, but 95% of his roster is not from Oklahoma. Guys, it takes a lot to move a defensive kid. Go look at recruiting for a defensive kid to leave the state. Now, offensive guys, quarterbacks, that's a completely different story. Defensive guys normally stay at home because they play defense. We're going to protect this house type of mentality. Like it happens a lot of times. Memphis, my question is, do you see him as not the only, but just a can't miss guy that LSU is targeting? Because I don't get that vibe personally from Napier. Do you have any worries from that? And we do have a lot of questions in here for you. Is there a vibe from Oklahoma and people in Norman? Are they starting to get nervous about all of this?
I think there's a little bit of there are a couple of Oklahoma boosters that listen to my show, and they're a little bit like, hey, what have you heard? What have you heard? Which means they don't know. And if certain boosters don't know, then people are playing this really close to their chest. I don't know if he's can't miss. What Lincoln Riley's going to be able to do is he's going to be able to come in. He's going to be able to whip up that offense, put together a staff, and win again. The question is going to be, in my mind anyway, are the boosters at LSU going to like him because he runs a program different? He's different. He doesn't let he's not anti-media, but remember, he has closed practices sometimes, and media members don't like that. We want to know what's going on. He doesn't like to necessarily be questioned. With the media and the boosters, maybe he plays to the boosters a little bit better than he does to the media, but he's going to be able to come in. He's going to be able to recruit. LSU recruits itself. I mean, adding Lincoln Riley is just going to be a step up. Plus, you said something earlier, and I really believe he doesn't want to play. Oklahoma has now set their boat on the ocean to come into the SEC. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be playing cupcakes you're not going to get Kansas or Texas Tech anymore. You're getting LSU, Arkansas. A down Auburn could still whoop your tail. So he's coming in and he's like, man, I to compete at this level, I need a bigger arsenal. Oklahoma's good, LSU's better. Let me go in here and get with one of the big dogs, coach that, and anything can happen. There's a pathway to success, a recent pathway to success with LSU. And I'm not sure if that's the case once Oklahoma gets into the SEC. And he probably isn't either. I don't know what his agent's telling him. And his agent, I think, is still, I was looking it up, is Bob Lamonte. Uh-huh. His agent's still Bob Lamonte, or it was at the beginning of this year. I think it's still his agent now. I haven't heard him transfer to Sexton or anything like that. But I think, and that's probably another reason why I don't know. Usually, Sexton lives in Memphis, and usually there's somebody, I get information from somebody there. And this is very quiet. Now, maybe that Scott Woodward's just really good at doing this.
Oh,
he's dude. AD at doing this, keeping things close to his chest. But I think that there's a good possibility right now that Lincoln Riley's the next head coach at LSU, even though I don't have any sources to confirm anything.
Well, and you can see writings on the wall. And look, he may or may not be, but it's a feeling that a lot of people are having. And look, Memphis, we had the same conversation a couple weeks ago about Miami, and you talked about the AD being out. You talked about, look, when you do this long enough, you start seeing how things work. And so with that being said, that's why I've been so cautious as to saying what I've been saying. And now I just feel like this is more smoke than we've seen. And I don't think that he can keep this quiet. Memphis, I got one more question, and we'll get you out of here. Always, like you are, fantastic. This playoff right now, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. Like I don't sit up on YouTube and watch conspiracy theory, videos and documentaries. But Memphis, they're so bad right now, and teams are so like sitting there saying, bro, there's no way that if I'm in East Lansing, like, how do I feel right now about Michigan being above me? And then them going out there saying, well, the game doesn't really matter. Do you think that there is an inkling of a chance that they're trying to do stuff like this? And obviously we know for ratings, but so that fans get more behind this playoff expansion. Do you think that could be why they're doing this? Because at the end, it's probably always going to be chalky. But do you feel like, because you're a voter, do you feel like they're doing this right now to get more playoff expansion going?
Whenever there's a major change, like take it back to the BCS, they had Boise State ranked at number 2. And everybody was like, is Boise State really the second best team in the nation? These computers are telling us they are. But nobody wanted to believe it. I'm not sure if they got the computers to rank them 2 to justify, well, hey, we need this college football playoff committee. But they had the full support of a lot of people to make a change because they didn't want to see Boise State play for a national championship. regardless of whether or not they're worthy of doing it. It's just something that a lot of people just Boise State has the fan base that they have, right? And for ratings, I know the broadcasters were like, "Oh my goodness, how am I going to sell advertising around Boise State?" A lot of the writers were like, "Wait a minute, is Boise State really the second best team? Can't just your run of the mill Florida at the time beat Boise State? I mean, what are we doing here?" So there was a lot of support behind going to the college football playoff system. I wouldn't be surprised. And of course you can blame it on, over half of them are new this year. There's a different thinking when you have new people come in. There's 7 new voters. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of this was to not only get people talking about the college football playoff system, but also the inequities of it and to support expansion. Because I'm one of those rare people that want to see really good football and don't really think expansion is necessary if you get the voting process right. But if you can't get the voting process right, then we have to expand it. And I think that's where they're trying to get people like me to just come on and say, all right, we can't do this without expansion. I think 4 is enough. Even if a Cincinnati's left out or whatnot, even if a UCF is left out, even if a Memphis is just playing in the Cotton Bowl and doesn't have any path to the college football playoff, I think 4 is still enough because I just want to see the best teams play. Right. But if you can't get the best teams into the playoff, truly the best teams into the playoff, then it has to expand because we can't have a miss. We can't have human error, which leaves out a game that we watched with our 2 eyes. We watched Michigan State beat Michigan with our eyes, and we're like, well, what does this game matter? Does this game matter in the minds of, and if it doesn't matter, what does that mean for other teams? Right. Or has it been going on and we just haven't noticed it before? So I think maybe they are trying to garner, it wouldn't surprise me if they're trying to garner more support for an expansion. I don't think it'll be 16 teams. I think the most we're going to get is 12, but maybe it's just 8. Maybe we get to 8 and, everybody's happy with that. I don't want to see it expanded and extended too long to kind of rival the NFL because the product's just going to, at some point in time, college has to stop and I got to watch the NFL playoffs. I mean, I think everybody's like that.
Right.
But, I don't think there's a good system in place for it to carry on too long and compete with the NFL playoffs. I think everybody's losing at that point. So maybe it expands to 8 and maybe the ADs and the commissioners all get behind an 8-game playoff system. I don't know. But that's a really good question, Blake.
There's no way in blue hell that a history professor from the University of Arizona knows more football than me. I'm sorry. And until we change it, Memphis, you're going to have to expand. But look, we're going to table that. This is going to get a lot more. And look, as soon as it gets closer, like we're going to have you on in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be down to the nitty gritty. We timed it perfectly. It'll be conference championship time. Yeah. So we'll get there. But Memphis, as always, you're fantastic. Tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff. I caught your show the other day. It was awesome. I didn't really comment or do anything. I was like, I'm going to sit in the back here, but tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff.
Sports Radio America. You can catch me there live noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mondays and Thursdays. I used to do it 5 days a week. Only got time for 2 these days. We're trying to rebuild Sports Radio America, and that's taking up a lot of my time. The pandemic really has us down. But I'm still there for you boosters. I'm still there for you people that really want to get into the nuts and bolts, the X's and O's of college football. Plus, I pull back the veil a little bit because I've been doing this a long time. I pull back the veil into the business side of the games that we love, and I share it all there. You can DM me, during the show. I'll get your questions in, but that's where I am. Sports Radio America. Come check us out.
Thanks, Memphis. It's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, my man. Take care.
That is Memphis Spence. Guys, he's just fantastic, bro. He's just absolutely 100% positively fantastic at what he does. And look, there's a reason that he votes on college football. The dude just is a wealth of knowledge, and I got to give it to him. Let's get to a couple comments because we don't have a lot longer here. So I'm going to get to all your comments. Fire in any questions that you have. I'm going to be monitoring all of the comments. So fire in hashtag Ask Blake. Fire the questions in right now into the Rudy Crew chat. Mark Chambers says, remember the wreck LSU had. They are all great. T.I. sends us some stars via Facebook. Thank you, my friend. Ryan Thibodeau says, L. Riley. Hashtag no brisket. Yeah, we're going to have to teach my man. And look, I saw Colin Thibodeau put this in there earlier. There's 100 million reasons, or we're speculating as to this, but if some of the things that we're hearing about Lincoln Riley and his contract and it being close to 10, 12, 15 million, I don't think that they get to 15 million. I think they stay a comfortable spot, 10 to 12. There's $100 million or 100 million reasons why Lincoln Riley would leave Oklahoma for LSU. You don't pay Billy Napier $10 million a year to come to LSU. I think Billy's a good coach. I really, really do. I would not be upset if Billy Napier was your next guy. But for me, I'm going to go with Lincoln right now. I know a lot of people like Dave, but I like an offensive-minded head coach, a guy that can scheme things up. And look, I'm going to say this. There's no way in hell that you can justify the talent that LSU can get to Oklahoma, especially at the skill position. CeeDee Lamb versus Jamar Chase. CeeDee Lamb versus Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb versus Terrace Marshall. 3 of those guys were wide receivers to the one guy that's over here. Lincoln Riley, everybody talks about, he hasn't developed the quarterback that he recruited. Well, guys, he's been able to go out into the transfer portal, and let's not be stupid with this argument. He still developed guys like Baker Mayfield, guys like Kyler Murray. Like, let's not be stupid enough to believe that he didn't have a big hand in all of that. For me, it's Lincoln. Can my mind be changed? Sure. Am I going to support any head coach that's at LSU? You're damn skippy. If it's not Lincoln, I'm perfectly okay with it. But for me, right now, I'm going with the Lincoln train. The LR train. Let's drive that natty, dog. Put some 32-inch rims up on that bitch, and let's roll. Because a new day of LSU football is here. The incompetence is gone. All right. Rick said Blake was lurking on Spence's show. Yeah, I was. Memphis is just fantastic, guys. He's fantastic. Tony Williams says, thanks, Memphis. Pooh Bear says, Hank Smith confirmed that Memphis Spence is legit. That he is. My mother says he is great. Love when he's on. I do too. Christopher sends us some stars via Facebook. I appreciate that. Chuck says, Blake, do you think it's Lincoln? I think right now, and for everybody that missed the opening, I do think right now that he is the number one guy. That's my opinion. I'm not saying it's sourcing. I'm not going that far yet. But I that's just my belief. Yes. That is my belief right now. Yes. I think that I don't know if I can see him turning down Oklahoma. Now, you got Oklahoma fans out there that are saying there's no way that he leaves Oklahoma. We're a blue blood. Quite honestly, the whole blue blood argument to me, this day and age, doesn't mean a damn thing. You know who else they call a blue blood? Michigan. And they're constantly getting their asses beat. This is the best season that they've had in decades. Maybe not decades, but since 1999. The best season that they've had. They're a blue blood. Well, you ain't won a champ. You ain't won a natty since 99. And then Oklahoma in 2000. Guys, winning has to matter. Winning national championships is not easy. It's not. All right. Colin says, hashtag I love Riley. W Mo on YouTube says, hashtag ask Blake. We have to get this hire right. Riley would be amazing. I agree. Michael Ray says, and still won't win anything. If you're talking about Lincoln, I don't necessarily agree with you. And look, here's the question about Lincoln. Here's the downfall about Lincoln is, Blake, what about his defense? Blake, it's taken, Lincoln's been there for 6 years, and he hasn't gotten the defense fixed. Quite honest, before you say that, you better go find the numbers and the things that are going on with their defense. Alex Grinch is a guy that a lot of people respect, and quite honestly, they have gotten better. You're telling me that their defense hasn't gotten better, and I get it from a yards and point standpoint, but from a schematic standpoint and the personnel that they have, yes, they have gotten better. Now, I can make that same argument for Billy Napier. Well, he can go and recruit and get his defense better. He can do things and get his defense better. I can make that argument for legitimately anybody. Hell, here's a crazy thing to me. Everybody talks about, Nick Saban this, Nick Saban that, Alabama this, Alabama that. Guys, the last 2 years, Ole Miss has put serious points up on the national championship winners, Alabama and LSU. Were those teams not good? Sometimes shit happens. Jason on YouTube says Riley could keep our defensive staff and be better than Oklahoma. I think that he could. Like, I legitimately think that he could. Oh, Michael's talking about Michigan. Yeah, you're right. Ryan Williams chimes in again, and we're live from his office. He says, would Oklahoma hire Lane Kiffin? That's a good question. I don't really know who they would hire if Lincoln were to leave. And I don't really know if Lane would leave the SEC. Would he leave the SEC to go to Oklahoma to then just rejoin the SEC? I don't know. But you know what Lincoln Riley is? Do you guys know what Lincoln Riley is? He's Lane Kiffin without the bullshit. Lincoln Riley is Lane Kiffin without any of the off-field drama. Because nobody can sit here and say a game, so for the people who think Lane Kiffin should be or could be and would be okay to be LSU's next head coach. Guys, he doesn't have a signature win, like a big-time win. USC, yeah, he beat some ranked opponents, but he didn't win big at USC. A lot of that was not on him. A lot of that had to do with the sanctions and all that, and I get all that. But Lincoln Riley is a more successful Lane Kiffin without the bullshit. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Bunny says, I think Florida goes after Kiffin. Now, that would be dangerous. That would be dangerous. If Lane Kiffin went to Florida, that would be really dangerous. I wouldn't like that at all. Aaron Felder says, my top choices in order: number 1, Lincoln Riley; number 2, Mario Cristobal; number 3, Lane Kiffin; number 4, Matt Campbell. Guys, I'm hearing some things. A lot of people are talking about Matt Campbell. Guys, a guy that wears his hat the way that he does, no way, no how. just on the way that man wears his hat. Nope. No, sir. I'm out. He might be a damn good coach, but I can't stand the way that he wears his hat, bro. Just can't stand it. Shane on Facebook says football relevance goes in 20-year stretches. LSU is a new blood. F those obsolete blue bloods. I agree with that. What do you put LSU in then? How do you explain the last 20 years then? They're a blue blood. Blue blood don't mean shit when your shit's getting kicked in. All right, we got 45 seconds. Brandon Reed says Kiffin would be an interesting hire for Oklahoma. Would be interesting. I don't know. Poppy on YouTube says massive underachieving for Lane Kiffin. I agree. And we'll end it here with this question from Colin Thibodeau. He says, #Ask Blake. Memphis made a good point about Riley locking media out. LSU media needs that sometimes. They would have a bitch fit. And not only would they have a bitch fit, they would the ones that don't have sourcing, which isn't a bad thing, they would just have a bitch fit. I lied. Last one. Mark says, I guess Blake doesn't like the way I wear mine either. I'm sorry, Mark. You know I love you. I can't take it. I don't trust a man that wears his hat a certain way. Bend that bill a little bit. Let it sit right on your head, but don't bend it that way. Mark, I love you. All right, let's get out of here. Guys, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Hopefully back from the AYS studio. But if not, we'll probably be at the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. You guys have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.